We've had some repercussions. In 1989, we had Americans die because they were given a supplement. They had L-tryptophan, and they suddenly died after that. They tried to deny that that was the cause, but it's probably not coincidental. So there have been some toxic effects, some negative effects, and don't let anyone tell you that there haven't, because there have. They exporting to countries that do not allow genetically engineered food, not telling them. They have been discovered at times, like the rice crop that was confirmed contaminated. Now, it was supposed to be normal rice. However, it was contaminated with genetically engineered rice. A more recent one was the Taco Bell shells. Remember that? That was like a couple years ago. So what happened was the Taco Bell shells and taco shells on the El Paso shells or whatever on the grocery store shelves. The corn, the regular corn, was mixed with a corn that was intended to feed cattle. The genetically engineered corn was allowed to be fed to the cattle, but it was never meant to be put into food for human consumption. And so somehow it ended up mixed in with the other corn, and that's the only reason. That's why they had to recall the taco shells. It's fine for it to go to the cows that you then eat, but it was going into our taco shells, and there was something saying it had not been approved for human consumption, so they had to pull the taco shells. In 1998, there was a farmer in Canada who did not plant any genetically engineered canola, and Monsanto went after him because he had genetically engineered canola. And so he swore that he did not plant that, it was his canola, and that it had actually spread. So this is one of the problems, is he was adjacent to places that had the genetically engineered canola. And so the idea of pollen from these genetically engineered plants now spreading to wild crops or non-genetically engineered fields was confirmed, and because it was said that no, that the wind wouldn't take it that far, that it wouldn't spread, that it was contained, they had it under control. But then genetically engineered stuff, genes started showing up in plants and crops that were being grown that were not supposed to be genetically engineered. So, okay, what's the problem with all of this? Well, like I said, there were instances where people got seriously ill or animals died after being exposed to some of these genetically engineered crops. There is a risk, okay, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. There was some research done, and there is a very small risk, but they have found now that there is a risk, because when I first saw this, I thought, oh God, genetically engineered food. People think that they're going to turn into a monster because the genes are going to get into them and they're going to turn into a carrot or whatever, okay? And I said, I've got to really, dispel that, okay? And I thought, well, that's not the problem. You can eat this food and it's not going to affect your genetics. It's just the other stuff. But then I found that the other stuff includes that stuff, and that is the splicing of those genes into unintended organisms. So the transference of those pieces of DNA into other organisms. That supplement, that food, those 37 people that died from the L-tryptophan, and there are possibilities of when you take that piece of gene that you're also transferring stuff that you don't know about, and so some of that may cause problems in the physiology of the organisms that were not predetermined. The present procedures for telling if things are genetically engineered or not do not look at all of the risks, and so it's like, yes, it's there, no, it's not there, but we don't really know what that means. Okay. Almost every store, I have a list of foods from 1999 that had genetically engineered food and products in it, and I've read different estimates, but the most conservative was 85% of processed foods in the grocery store contain some genetically modified food.